Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are focusing laser-like on, well, the foundational science that every single aspiring nail professional really has to master.
It's so true.
And this isn't just about theory for an exam. This is your job security, it's your long-term career health, and of course, client safety all rolled into one.
It really is.
Our mission today is to cut through some of that textbook complexity around dermatology and give you the actionable professional knowledge you need about your client's largest organ, the skin. We are diving deep into the science of your canvas.
And that framing, thinking of it as your canvas, is so critical. When you look at your client's hands and feet, you are looking at their integumentary system.
Right.
Understanding its structure, how it functions, how it ages, and this is the most important part, recognizing when something is wrong. That is the absolute non-negotiable definition of professional excellence in this industry.
Okay, so let's unpack that right away with probably the most crucial concept, which is defining your professional scope. We're relying on the science of dermatology, but we are not, under any circumstances, becoming dermatologists.
Absolutely not.
We have to know that legal line.
That distinction is paramount. For safety, of course, but also for your own professional longevity. Dermatology, well, that's the medical science that studies the skin. Its nature, its structure, diseases, treatments. A dermatologist is the licensed treating physician.
And our role.
As a nail technician, your scope is very clearly defined. It's limited. You provide cleansing, you work on a preservation of health and beautification services, but specifically for the skin on the hands and arms below the elbow and on the feet and legs below the knee.
That's it. That is your entire canvas.
That's the canvas.
And that distinction, that sets the stage for what we cannot do. And if we cross that line, it can be a federal law violation. It's a huge deal.
It is. This is the legal line that protects you, it protects the client, and honestly, it protects the reputation of the whole profession.
So what can't we do?
You must never diagnose, never prescribe, never recommend a specific treatment, or, attempt to treat any abnormal conditions, illnesses, or diseases.
Can we think about an example here? Because I think this is where people get tripped up.
Okay, perfect example. If you tell a client, oh, that looks like a fungal infection, you should go get this over-the-counter cream to fix it. You've just done two illegal things. You've diagnosed and you've prescribed.
Even suggesting something like a home remedy.
Even that crosses the boundary.
Right.
Because you're providing treatment advice, and that's completely outside of your license scope.
So if you're looking at a client's hand or foot and you spot something that it looks unhealthy or inflamed or just not right, you can't just work around it. What is the actual required, actionable safety protocol?
The procedure is all about communication and caution. You have to tactfully, very gently explain to the client that they appear to have an unhealthy condition that needs a medical examination.
And then the ball is in their court.
Exactly. The client then has to go and get written medical clearance from a doctor. And that note needs to state two very specific things. First, that the condition is not contagious. And second, that performing your service won't make it worse or put the client at risk.
And only then.
Only with that written clearance in your hand can you proceed. It keeps you legally safe and, more importantly, it makes sure the client gets the proper medical care they need. Recognizing when not to work is just as important as knowing how to do a perfect service.
Maybe even more so.
I would argue more so, yes.
That really sets the professional standard. So now that we have the boundaries straight, let's get into section 1. Skin anatomy, the client's canvas. You have to know the map before you can navigate the territory.
And the skin is so often underestimated. It's part of the integumentary system, which is this really complex network. It includes the skin, the hair, the nails, and the exocrine glands.
And it's huge.
It's massive. It's the largest organ of the body. It can cover about 3,000 square inches and weigh anywhere from 6 to 9 pounds in an average adult. It is our only continuous barrier against the whole world. It's an engineering masterpiece.
And the thickness is so perfectly tailored to where it is on the body.
That's a key anatomical point. The thinnest skin, it's right under your eyes, around the eyelids. You need that flexibility for movement.
Right.
But then the thickest skin, where you need the most protection from friction and impact,
Right.
That's on the palms of your hands and the soles of your feet.
A work area.
Exactly. That fact alone just emphasizes the kind of physical demands that are placed on the skin that you're working on every single day.
So when we talk about healthy skin, what are we actually looking for during a client consultation? What are those ideal characteristics?
Healthy skin has a very specific look and feel. It should be slightly moist, soft, and flexible. You want to see that it's smooth, fine-grained, with a really even color tone. And crucially, the surface needs to maintain a slightly acidic pH that's essential for its immune function. It's a state of balance.
Speaking of protection, we absolutely have to talk about the callus. I think the medical term is keratoma.
Yes, KAH-less. And this is where so many people, pros and clients alike, make mistakes because clients always want you to just remove it completely.
Hey, dude, get it all
I'll
off.
get it all off. And that's a critical teaching point. The callus is just an acquired, thickened patch of the epidermis. It's caused by repeated pressure. It's the body's natural response. It is a necessary protective layer.
So the big rule is,
You must never completely remove a callus. Never. If you do that, you're removing the body's natural cushion. You risk injury to the deeper layers, and you're just opening the door for infection. You can smooth it, you can reduce the bulk, but you have to leave a protective buffer.
that is absolutely essential for pedicures.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get into the layers. The skin has these three main distinct layers. It's like armor, a support system, and a cushion all in one.
Right. So from the outside in, you've got the epidermis. That's the epididymis. It's the outermost visible layer,
The one we touch.
the one you touch. Then you have the dermis, which is the underlying inner layer. That's often called the true skin, and it has all the vital support structures. And finally, the subcutaneous tissue, or the hypodermis, that's the fatty layer that cushions everything.
Let's focus really intensely on that outermost layer first. 1.1, the epidermis. This is the layer we're interacting with during, well, basically every single service.
The epidermis is the outermost and thinnest layer. And here's a fascinating point. It contains no blood vessels, none. It relies completely on the dermis below it for all of its nutrition, which just kind of diffuses up.
Wow.
And it's made up of 5 distinct layers, or strata, which is Latin for layer. And you absolutely need to know the name and the order of these for your exams, but also just for understanding how products even work.
Okay, let's run through them. From the top down. So from the surface where we put product down to the deepest living part where it all begins.
Okay, we start at the very top. Number 1, stratum corneum. This is also called the horny layer.
The horny layer.
Yes, this is the visible surface layer. It's the ultimate body armor. It's made of dead, flattened cells full of keratin, and it protects you from everything. UV, bacteria, pollution, allergens.
And the process of creating these dead cells, that's keratinization.
That's keratinization. And that whole cycle, from a living cell being born to becoming one of these tough, dead cells on the surface, it takes about 25 to 28 days.
And that process creates the skin's main defense mechanism, right? The famous barrier.
Precisely. Those keratinized cells, they combine with lipids and salts and water on the surface to form the barrier function, which is often called the acid mantle. And this protective sheath is what makes your skin semi-impermeable. When you damage this barrier, the skin is instantly vulnerable.
Okay, moving down. Past the armor. What's next?
Number 2 is the stratum lucidum, the clear or transparent layer. This layer is thickest on the palms and soles, those high-friction areas we service. It's made of small, oval cells, and light can pass right through them. Functionally, this is the layer that forms the unique ridges and whorls of our fingerprints.
And they never change.
Never change. Next, number 3 is the stratum granulosum, or grainy layer. And just like the name says, the cells here look like little granules. This is a stage where the cells are dying as they get pushed up. Keratinization is officially completed in this layer.
Okay.
And some structures in here, called desmosomes, combine to form what's known as intercellular cement, which really reinforces that skin barrier.
So this is where the cell is transforming from a living thing into that tough, protective material. What about the layer just above the sort of engine room?
That would be number 4, the stratum spinosum, the spiny layer. The cells in this layer are connected by these special structures called desmosomes. Under a microscope, they look like little finger-like projections or spot welds holding the cells together.
And this is an important one for the immune system too, right?
Hugely important. This layer is home to Langerhans cells. These are specialized immune support cells, and they're actively patrolling for antigens, for foreign substances, and they kick off a protective response. It just shows that the skin isn't just a shield, it's an active defense system.
And finally, we get to the bottom, the critical layer where it all begins.
Number 5, the stratum germinativum, the basal layer. This is the deepest and the only truly living layer of the epidermis. This is where new skin cells are produced through cell division, a process called mitosis.
And this is a huge professional implication.
A massive one. Any damage that gets down into the basal layer, that will result in a permanent scar. because you've injured the very cells that are responsible for orderly regeneration. And this is also where our skin color is determined.
Because the basal layer contains the melanocytes.
It does. Melanocytes are these special cells that produce pigmented granules called melanosomes. And those melanosomes contain melanin, which is what determines our skin tone and our protective response to the sun.
Which brings us to 1.2 melanin and solar exposure. This is so relevant for the hands, since they're just so prone to that external or extrinsic aging. And we have two main types of melanin, right?
That's right. There's pheomelanin, which is the red to yellow pigment. It's dominant in lighter skin tones, and it's less effective at UV protection. And then there's eumelanin, which is the deep brown to black pigment. It provides superior protection, and it's found in darker skin tones.
So melanin is really our body's built-in sunscreen.
It's exactly that. Its primary function is evolutionary. It's there to protect the DNA of those sensitive basal cells from too much UV exposure. That's why your skin darkens or tans when it's exposed to the sun.
Okay, let's talk about actual sunscreen then, because the sources are pretty specific about what's effective. You hear about SPF 100, but is that really necessary?
The sources are clear on this. For effective daily protection against burning, cancer, and premature aging, an SPF of 15 up to 30 is what's recommended.
And what about lower than 15?
An SPF lower than 15 will help prevent a sunburn, sure, but it doesn't offer adequate protection against that deeper, cancer-causing UV damage. And critically, sunscreens marketed above SPF 50 are generally considered unnecessary.
Really? Why is that?
The incremental benefit of blocking more UV energy is almost negligible, and it can give people a false sense of complete protection so they don't reapply.
Which you should be doing every 2 hours.
Every 2 hours. And the consensus is to apply it about 15 minutes before you go out into direct sun.
And we have to think beyond just direct sunlight, especially if you're working near big windows or outside.
Absolutely. You have to be aware of the albedo effect. Albedo is just the scientific term for how much solar radiation a surface reflects. So shiny surfaces like concrete, big glass windows, snow, even the water in a pool, they can magnify the sun's intensity.
So a pedicure by the pool is a double dose of UV.
A huge double dose. This is why recommending and applying a proper broad-spectrum sunscreen on the hands and arms is such a professional service.
Okay, moving down past the epidermis, let's explore 1.3, the dermis and subcutaneous layer. This is the foundation that gives our skin its strength and flexibility.
The dermis. It's often called the true skin, and it is the critical inner support. It's incredibly tough and sensitive, and it's about 25 times thicker than the epidermis.
Wow.
Yeah, and this inner layer is just a complex web. It's got blood vessels, lymph vessels, nerves, glands, hair follicles, the tiny erector pili muscles that cause goosebumps, and these little finger-like projections called papillae.
So the dermis is basically the infrastructure. It's carrying all the utilities, and it's split into two sublayers, right?
It is. The upper part right underneath the epidermis is the papillary layer. This is where you find the dermal papillae, which are these little cone-shaped projections that poke up into the epidermis.
And what's in there?
Inside these papillae, you've got tiny looped capillaries and tactile corpuscles. These are small nerve endings that are super sensitive to touch and pressure.
Wait a second. So if the most sensitive touch receptors are right there, does that mean aggressive filing or pushing too hard on the skin could instantly trigger a pain response deep down?
Precisely. That is exactly why proper, gentle technique is so important, especially around the nail folds and the eponychium. You are working directly on top of those sensory endpoints.
The deeper layer.
The main support structure is the deeper reticular layer. This is the major support layer. It supplies the skin with its lifeblood, oxygen, and nutrients. It contains most of the sweat glands, oil glands, and that deep network of blood and lymph vessels.
And this layer is all about the two big proteins that keep our skin looking young.
The dynamic duo, collagen and elastin. Collagen is a fibrous protein that gives the skin its structure and strength. It makes up about 70% of the dermis.
It gives it rigidity.
Exactly. And woven in with the collagen is elastin, which is about 15% of these fibers, and that provides flexibility. It helps the skin snap back into place after you stretch it.
And there's the connection to visible aging, the breakdown of this duo.
Absolutely. The weakening of those collagen and elastin fibers is the physical reason we see a loss of elasticity. It's what causes fine lines, wrinkles, and sagging. And we have to say again, any signs of skin aging before you're 50, it is overwhelmingly linked to previous unprotected sun exposure, not just genetics.
So protecting that dermal infrastructure is key. Finally, what's the purpose of that last layer tucked way down below the dermis.
That's the subcutaneous tissue, or the hypodermis. It's also known as adipose tissue. It's the protective fatty layer.
What?
Its thickness varies a lot based on age, gender, health. Functionally, it gives contour to the body. It stores oil-soluble vitamins and hormones. It's an energy source. And it's a really important shock absorber. It's a cushion for the bones and muscles underneath.
Now that we know the structure, let's move into Section 2, Functions and Maintenance. Let's talk about the body's 6 vital operating systems and how the skin actually works on a physiological level.
We can start with 2.1 nerves and glands because the skin is constantly getting messages and responding to the world around it. The nerve network is incredibly detailed.
And we categorize those messages with 3 types of nerve fibers.
The first are the motor nerve fibers. These go to the erector pili muscles, the tiny muscles that make your hair stand on end and cause goosebumps.
Okay.
Next are the sensory nerve fibers. These are crucial for us. They react to heat, cold, touch, pressure, and pain. And they are most abundant in the fingertips and toes, which again reinforces why we need to use a precise, gentle touch.
And the third type controls our secretions.
Right. Those are the secretory nerve fibers. They're part of the autonomic nervous system. Their job is to regulate. They control the flow of perspiration or sweat from the sudoriferous glands and the flow of sebum, or oil, from the sebaceous glands to the surface.
Let's break down those 2 main types of glands of the skin, starting with the sweat glands.
So we have the sudoriferous glands, the sweat glands. The minor ones are the apocrine glands. These are connected to hair follicles, usually in the underarms and genital areas. They secrete a thicker, fattier sweat, and when that mixes with bacteria on the surface,
That's what causes body odor.
that's what causes the odor. They're stimulated by stress, and they only become active after puberty.
And the ones that are responsible for core temperature control.
Those are the eccrine glands. These are the major sweat glands. They are all over your skin, but especially on the palms and soles. They secrete a more watery sweat directly to the surface, and their function is purely to regulate body temperature and get rid of waste.
And that cooling process is called wicking.
Wicking, the evaporation of the sweat from the surface cools you down.
And it's a constant function. We eliminate, 1 to 2 pints of liquid a day through our pores, which really drives home the need for hydration.
It really does.
Okay, moving on to oil production. The sebaceous glands.
These are the oil glands. They're connected to hair follicles, but, and this is a crucial point, they are completely absent on the palms of the hands and the soles of the feet.
Which explains why those areas get so dry.
And why you don't get acne there. They secrete sebum, which is this semi-fluid mix of lipids and fatty acids, and sebum's job is critical. It lubricates the skin and hair. It's the body's natural moisturizer.
And when that flow of sebum gets blocked,
That's when you have a problem. If the sebum hardens and the duct gets clogged with dead cells or dust, you get a pore impaction. We call that a comedo
a black.
or whitehead. And if that comedo gets sealed off from oxygen, it creates the perfect environment for bacteria and inflammation, which leads to an acne papule or pustule.
Okay, let's transition now to 2.2 skin physiology. The 6 primary functions. This is core curriculum stuff, and it explains everything the skin does. The study of these functions is skin physiology.
Right. And we have the PSHESA acronym to help remember the 6 roles.
Let's go through them.
This is a perfect summary of the skin's job description. The 6 primary functions are, number 1, protection. That's the obvious one. The barrier against injury, infection, all that. 2 is sensation. The response to heat, cold, touch, pressure, pain from those nerve endings we talked about. 3 is heat regulation, maintaining that constant 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit through blood vessels and sweat.
Got it.
4 is excretion, getting rid of perspiration water, salts, minerals through the sweat glands. 5 is secretion, production of sebum, the oil for lubrication. And number 6 is absorption, the very, very restricted ability of things to penetrate the skin.
I want to stop and focus on that 6th one, absorption. Because this is where we need to actively debunk all those miracle product myths that clients bring into the salon.
This is probably the most critical insight for a professional to have. The absorption of cosmetics is severely limited to just the surface layers of the epidermis.
Why is that?
Well, it's mostly due to the molecular size of the ingredients and that really effective barrier function we talked about. Most topical products are designed to help the skin's protective mantle, not to bypass it.
So the big takeaway here is,
The critical note here is that nutritional benefits, like from vitamins you eat, are not absorbed through topical products. You can't feed your skin from the outside in with a cream.
so when clients hear about topical vitamin C or vitamin A, and they assume they're feeding the deep living layers of their skin. What's really happening?
It's mostly surface effects and product stability. For example, vitamin E is often added as an antioxidant just to keep the product itself from going bad. Vitamin C on the surface might help brighten the top layers a bit, but it can't get deep enough in a cosmetic formula to truly boost collagen production in the dermis.
Not like eating an orange would.
Not even close. For an ingredient to get all the way through the skin and deliver a drug or a hormone that's called transdermal medication, it has to be specifically formulated with something like nanotechnology, be classified as a drug, and require a doctor's prescription. You have to be really clear about this with clients.
That puts the power of health back into the client's internal choices, which leads us perfectly to 2.3, nutrition and hydration.
Absolutely. Skin health is a reflection of what's going on inside. Now, we can't give nutritional counseling, but understanding the basics helps you reinforce good practices. The right diet regulates hydration, oil production, cell function, everything.
Whole foods are key.
Eating a balanced diet of whole foods, healthy fats, good carbs, quality proteins is the single best thing you can do for your skin from the inside out.
Let's do a quick review of the essential vitamins and their roles. We should pay attention to whether they're oil or water soluble because that affects how they're stored.
Okay, let's categorize them. First, vitamin A. It's oil soluble, it supports cell health and repair, and it's crucial for skin elasticity and thickness.
Got it.
Vitamin C. This one is water soluble, so you need it constantly. It's essential for tissue repair, the immune system, and it's a precursor to making collagen in the dermis.
Very important.
Vitamin D, oil soluble. It's needed for calcium absorption, it promotes healing, and supports brain health. We get it from limited sun exposure. Then vitamin E, also oil soluble, a great antioxidant that protects from sun damage and helps wounds heal.
What about K and B?
Vitamin K is oil soluble, it regulates blood clotting, and the B vitamins are a whole complex group. They're water soluble. They're essential for breaking down nutrients for energy and for making red blood cells to oxygenate the skin.
And finally, let's hit the hydration warning. It's so easy to just say drink more water, but we need to know the nuances of both too little and too much.
The effects of dehydration are dramatic. Even mild dehydration can slow your metabolism by 3% and lead to fatigue and brain fog. Visibly, you see cracked skin, dullness.
But there's a limit.
There's a limit. Drinking crazy amounts of water can lead to a dangerous condition called water intoxication. It dilutes your blood, causing a critical drop in sodium levels called hyponatremia. It's a medical emergency. So, as always, balance is the goal.
That transitions us perfectly into Section 3, extrinsic aging and environmental factors. We already touched on this, that skin aging is largely preventable, especially on the hands, which are always exposed.
That statistic is it's mind-blowing. Approximately 80 to 85% of visible skin aging is caused by the sun. This is extrinsic aging, damage from external factors. And the hands are so vulnerable because they're rarely covered and people forget to put sunscreen on them.
We need to be really clear about the two different damaging types of UV energy.
Okay. First, there's UVA. Think A for aging. These are the longer waves that go deep, all the way into the dermis. They are the main culprit in breaking down our precious collagen and elastin. That's what causes wrinkles, sagging, that leathery texture.
And they can go through clouds and glass.
Right. So you're getting that damage even indoors or on a cloudy day. Then you have UVB. Think B for burning. These rays are shorter, higher frequency. They mostly affect the epidermis. They cause tanning by activating the melanocytes, and they're responsible for sunburns.
And also the main driver of skin cancer.
Also the main driver of skin cancer.
So protection has to be comprehensive. But what other environmental factors are aging us besides the sun?
Pollutants are a huge one. Particulate matter from car exhaust, factory smoke, even secondhand smoke. It settles on the skin and causes microscopic irritation, creating free radicals that damage cells.
So the defense strategy is pretty simple then. Barrier protection and cleaning.
Exactly. A good daily routine is your best defense. Washing at night is essential to get that pollutant buildup off, and then following that with moisturizers or lotions helps reinforce the skin's barrier.
You mentioned the Fitzpatrick scale earlier. Why is that relevant for a nail tech to know?
The Fitzpatrick scale categorizes skin types based on their genetics and their predictable reaction to UV light. It goes from type 1, very pale, always burns, to type 6, darkest skin, rarely burns.
And that helps us anticipate risk.
Exactly. A type 1 client is highly susceptible to sun damage and cancer. A type 5 or 6 client is more prone to things like hyperpigmentation after an injury or developing keloids, which are those thick, raised scars. It helps you tailor your service and your advice.
Let's talk about lifestyle aging. This requires a lot of professionalism because you're observing the effects of a client's choices, but you can't lecture them.
It's a very sensitive area. Poor lifestyle choices just accelerate aging. Take smoking. Nicotine causes blood vessels to contract and weaken. It literally deprives your tissues of oxygen.
And the skin looks.
It often appears yellowish, gray, or just dull from that lack of oxygen. And for us, specifically, smoking can cause yellow stains on the nail plate itself, which makes our job harder.
And what about the effects of heavy alcohol or drug use?
Chronic heavy use can overdilate the capillaries. Over time, the capillary walls weaken, and you can get those little visible red lines called telangiectasias, or spider veins. And again, you're just depriving the skin of oxygen and water, so it can look inflamed or lifeless.
So how does a nail professional who's seeing this on a client's hands tactfully it up without crossing that legal boundary of diagnosing?
Your job is to observe and refer. Never judge or diagnose. So if a client asks why their skin looks sallow, you could say something like, well, sometimes poor circulation, whether from environmental factors or dehydration, can cause a dull tone. You might want to chat with your doctor or a licensed esthetician about it.
So you point out the effect, not the cause.
Exactly. You point out the effect, the discoloration, the severe dryness, and then you immediately refer. You keep your language neutral and focused on health, not blame.
Okay, moving to the really critical part, Section 4. Identifying skin disorders and diseases. This section defines your safety diligence. The action mandate is crystal clear. Recognize abnormal conditions and refer. Never treat or diagnose.
Right. And recognition starts with knowing the difference between symptoms. Subjective symptoms are what the client feels. Itching, burning, pain. Objective symptoms are what you can see. A blister, a rash, inflammation. If you see open, inflamed, or weeping skin, you avoid contact. No service without a doctor's release.
Let's review the most critical types of lesions, starting with primary lesions. These are the newly formed ones, often raised or fluid-filled. Let's focus on the most common or most severe.
We have to prioritize the ones that are an absolute immediate referral. First, a bulla. That's a large blister with watery fluid. It indicates significant trauma or disease, and it's a huge infection risk. Must be referred.
Okay, what else?
A cyst or a tubercle. This is a closed sac with pus or fluid that needs surgical removal. Any deep, hard nodule under the skin, refer immediately. And then a vesicle. That's a small blister with clear fluid, like what you see with poison ivy or herpes simplex. Highly contagious or a big infection risk.
And what about the more common, less dangerous ones we should still recognize?
You should know a macule, which is a flat spot like a freckle. A papule, a small raised bump with no fluid. A pustule, which is an inflamed bump with pus.
What?
And a wheal, or urticaria, which is an itchy, swollen lesion like hives. Recognizing these helps you decide if you need to adapt the service or just skip it altogether.
Now for secondary lesions, this is damage that has already happened, accumulation on the surface, or depressions in the skin.
Right. Key secondary lesions include a crust, which is basically a scab, excoriation, which is a sore from scratching, like you see with severe nail biting.
And fissures, I see those a lot on feet.
A fissure, yes. A crack in the skin that goes down into the dermis. Severely chapped hands, deep cracks in the feet. These are open wounds and high infection risks. You also need to know a keloid, that thick scar from excessive fibrous tissue. And finally, an ulcer.
Ulcers are serious.
An ulcer is a deep, open lesion, often with pus. It's a huge problem, especially for clients with diabetes or circulatory issues. It signals potential systemic trouble. Ulcers must be referred immediately. No questions asked.
Let's differentiate between common skin inflammations disorders. Which ones are safe to work on cautiously, and which are absolute no-goes?
Okay, the non-contagious inflammatory conditions include things like dermatitis, which is just general skin inflammation, eczema, which is a painful, itchy disease, and psoriasis.
Psoriasis can affect the nails, too.
It can. You'll see red patches with silvery scales, and it can cause pitting on the nail plates. Now, these aren't contagious, but if the inflammation is severe or acute, you have to use extreme caution, avoid the area, and maybe refer the client until the outbreak calms down.
And what about cellulitis?
Cellulitis presents as a swollen, hot, red, and tender area. It is a serious internal bacterial infection. It's not usually spread person to person in a salon, but it is a medical emergency for the client and a massive contraindication for you.
Now, let's list the conditions that are definite, absolute no-service contraindications because they are infectious.
Here's the stop work immediately list.
Sure.
Herpes simplex. It's a highly contagious viral infection with blister-like clusters, verruca, or a wart. That's caused by a virus, it's infectious, and can spread by contact.
And fungus.
And fungus. Tinea manis, which is ringworm of the hand, and tinea pedis, which is athlete's foot. Tinea pedis is super common, itchy, peeling skin. Tinea manis on the hand is less common, but usually more aggressive. Any sign of tinea, the service stops immediately.
So if a client comes in with any of those infectious conditions, the service is stopped, you clean and disinfect everything immediately, and you refer the client. The mandate is protect yourself and your other clients.
Absolutely. No amount of money is worth risking someone's health or your license.
Finally, within this critical safety section, we have to cover skin cancer and the ABCDE checklist. This is the most serious, potentially life-saving referral you could ever make.
Skin cancer is overwhelmingly linked to sun exposure. It comes in three main forms: basal cell carcinoma, which is the most common and least severe; squamous cell carcinoma, which is more serious; and the most dangerous one, malignant melanoma.
And malignant melanoma is one that really demands our total vigilance, especially when we're looking at moles on a client's hands and arms.
It is the least common, but it is the most serious form. It can be nearly 100% fatal if it's left untreated and allowed to spread. It often looks like an irregular dark patch. Early detection is everything. As a nail tech, you're looking at your client's skin under bright lights up close. You are perfectly positioned to spot an early change.
And here is a tool for recognition that every nail tech must memorize.
Yeah.
The ABCDE checklist. You use this to check any moles or lesions for changes.
Okay, let's go through it. A is for asymmetry. One half of the mole doesn't match the other half.
Right.
B is for border irregularity. The edges are ragged, notched, or blurred instead of smooth. C is for color. The color is uneven. It has multiple shades of tan, brown, black, even red, blue, or white.
D
is for diameter. It's wider than about 1/4 of an inch, the size of a pencil eraser. And E is for evolution. The mole changes over time in its size, its shape, its color, or how it feels. Maybe it starts to itch or bleed.
And if you see any of these ABCDE signs, your mandated action is immediate, sensitive referral to a dermatologist. Do not touch it. Do not file it. Do not try to remove hair from it.
Your professional duty ends at observation and referral. Your expertise in anatomy and just paying attention could genuinely save a life.
Let's dedicate our final crucial section to Section 5, preventing common salon problems. Contact dermatitis. This is all about your long-term career health, protecting yourself from the chemicals you work with every single day.
Contact dermatitis is, statistically, the most common avoidable skin disease for nail technicians. It's a skin infection caused by continuous contact with irritating substances, and it is a massive threat to your career.
We need to be clear about the two types. There's irritant and there's allergic.
Right. Irritant contact dermatitis is an immediate response. It's when your skin reacts to a strong chemical, causing some irritation, dryness, or rash. The immune response that causes that redness is called a histamine response. It's temporary and usually goes away when you remove the irritant.
But the more dangerous one, the career-ending one, is allergic contact dermatitis.
Correct. This is a sensitivity that develops over time. It's a complete change in your immune system's response to a specific chemical. This process is called sensitization, and it doesn't happen overnight. It can take 4 to 6 months of repeated contact before the allergy fully develops.
And once you're allergic.
You are allergic for life, and symptoms only get worse with more exposure. It can force a technician to give up using that entire class of products. It's devastating.
So if you're not careful on day 1, you could ruin your ability to work on day 180. What are the most common sources of overexposure that nail techs need to eliminate?
It is overwhelmingly linked to uncured or partially cured product. Number 1, direct contact. The biggest offender is smoothing a wet brush with your bare fingers or accidentally touching the monomer or UV gel to your skin.
Okay.
Number 2, contaminated surfaces. Resting your arms on towels or tables that are contaminated with monomer residue, polymer powder dust, or uncured UV gel. And number 3, transfer. Picking up a bottle with product residue on it and then touching your face or your neck.
And where does this usually show up on the technician?
For the tech, it's highly likely to be the skin between the thumb and pointer finger, the wrist, the palm, or the back of the hand. And because of transfer, we often see it on the cheeks. For the client, it's usually the eponychium, the cuticle area, or the skin around the fingertips.
The source material gives a clear physical defense against this, the safety margin rule.
This is the crucial rule. It has to be treated as a non-negotiable chemical safety protocol. You must never touch any nail enhancement, product monomer, powder, UV gel to the client's skin or your own. You must maintain a precise 116-inch free margin between the product's edge and the living skin. Every single exposure increases the risk of sensitization.
And that technical rule leads right into product mixing and ratio, the problem of improper monomer consistency.
This is a huge chemical safety issue. When you're applying acrylic, the initiator in the powder needs the exact ratio of monomer liquid to cure completely. If your bead is too wet, you trap liquid, uncured monomer inside the hardened product.
And that uncured monomer can cause problems.
It can penetrate a damaged nail plate or be released as vapor or dust when you file, and that leads to allergic reactions. You have to follow the manufacturer's ratio.
The final, equally complex technical safety point is UV LED gel undercuring. This is where so many techs are confused, especially about their equipment. Improperly cured gel leaves behind a residue of partially cured gel, which is highly allergenic.
This failure to cure is dangerous. It can be caused by applying the product too thick, not curing it long enough, or, and this is the most common one, using the wrong lamp.
Let's explain that fundamental confusion between wattage and output.
Okay. Wattage only measures how much electricity the lamp uses. It tells you nothing about the UV energy output or the specific wavelength needed to cure a product. A 36-watt lamp from one company is not the same as a 36-watt lamp from another.
So what's the solution?
Different gel systems are engineered to cure with a specific wavelength range. You must always use the UV LED lamp unit that was specifically designed and recommended by the gel system manufacturer. If you switch brands or lamps, you are risking undercuring.
And what about the gooey top layer we see after curing, the sticky layer?
That's the inhibition layer. It is highly reactive, partially cured UV gel, and it must never contact the skin. It has to be removed with an alcohol or a specialized cleanser wipe. And you should never mix product lines or custom blend because that creates chemical imbalances and drastically increases the risk of allergies.
So to summarize the critical self-protection protocol for every nail professional.
Implement strict environmental controls. Keep your brushes, containers, and table clean and free from dust and residue to avoid that incidental overexposure. Wear appropriate latex-free gloves, wash your hands thoroughly, and moisturize to maintain your own skin barrier. If you do develop a sensitivity, stop using the product immediately and see a doctor. With these careful practices, these problems are easily avoided, and you can have a safe, successful, and long career.
This deep dive has really provided the fundamental knowledge that defines a truly skilled technician. From the microscopic anatomy of the 5 strata of the epidermis, all the way down to the critical safety boundaries that protect both your career and your client's health.
Understanding the protective function of a callus, the dangerous mechanism of sensitization in allergic contact dermatitis, the technical reasons why that 116-inch free margin is a non-negotiable chemical safety rule, and being able to spot life-threatening changes using the ABCDE checklist, this knowledge elevates you. It takes you beyond being a simple craftsperson to being a trained health professional.
We focus so heavily on extrinsic aging, noting that 80 to 85% of skin aging is from the sun, and the hands are particularly vulnerable. As a nail technician, you're observing your client's hands up close, regularly, probably more closely than any other professional. This makes you a subtle guardian of their health.
Which leads us to our final thought for you to consider as you build your own ethical and professional practice. Beyond just recommending sunscreen, which is standard advice, what creative, non-diagnostic communication strategy could you develop during your consultation to subtly reinforce healthy skin habits, specifically sun protection for the hands?
How can you transform that passive check of the client's hands into a proactive wellness opportunity, using the deep knowledge we've discussed today, while strictly, always, respecting those legal boundaries?
That's how true expertise is defined and applied.
Thank you for joining us for the deep dive. We'll see you next time.